Come join us as we travel by Paramotor 4,000 kilometers across this big wide land of ours. Watch on as three mates set out to do what has never been done before. 43 flights in 28 days, stretching from beautiful Kalbarri in the west, to the magical Byron Bay in the east. At times reaching speeds of 140 km per hour and at others, no more than 24. Crossing vast deserts and challenging mountain ranges. Skirting the coast of 3 oceans and untold flooded plains. You'll see the joys of success and the tears of failure. And along the way you'll learn what it really means to grab life by the balls.
In this week's episode, we travel from scenic Ceduna, right across the Eyre Peninsula, over the Flinders Ranges and into New South Wales, finishing a successful week in the outback river town of Wilcannia. The second half of our journey began with a lovely Sunday afternoon flight out of Ceduna. It was great to be flying again with Gary. We got up in the air late in the afternoon and enjoyed some nice conditions. It was quite warm and enjoyable flight. We were going against the wind a little bit, and so we didn't make much headway. And just when the sun started to set, we looked for somewhere to land. We found a little roadside area at a place called Mudramukla, and we come into land there and set up camp for the night.
Gary's coming in the land. Nice. Yes. Coming in slow. Looking good. Good control. Look at him go. Touchdown. Beautiful. Nice work, Gary.
Well, that night we found a good place to camp in a little quarry there on the side of the road, and we had a little campfire going, and it was quite an enjoyable evening. But we got up early, crack of dawn, it's still dark, and we set off. Both Gary and I wheel launched for heading for Poochera, and flying down along that part of the Eyre Peninsula reminded me very much of the West Australian wheat belt, and we're following a railway line, and there was wheat silos along the way, and it was very familiar sort of territory. It was quite an enjoyable flight, and we come into land at the football over at Poochera and stayed there for the afternoon. We spent the afternoon at Poochera and then got set up for the evening flight down to Kyalakata. It was a lovely flight, and once again it wasn't a fast flight, but we were happy. Gary and I were having a bit of fun up there, and he was looking to land at Wadena, and I said, "Come on, Gary, let's keep going." So we pushed on. Just after the sunset, we landed at Kyalakata for the night. We spent the night at the Kyalakata football ground, and it was looking like going to be a cold night, and the club rooms were open, so I helped myself to set up the swag inside the change rooms there and avoided the chill of the night. But in the morning we got up early, and I flew alone. I foot launched into a strong sort of northerly wind, and didn't really make much ground along the
and had a flight this morning for an hour and 45 minutes and managed to gain a total of 50 kilometres, which wasn't very good going because we're flying into a strong headwind and not making much progress. So we're here in Kimbo, we're having a day off, not flying this afternoon. It's windy, it's about to rain, not looking good much for the next few days, so we could be here a while like we were last week in Eucla. But we expected bad weather along the way, and yeah, we're getting our fair share. This is our campsite. Jeff's here, he's just done his washing down the laundromat.
Oh, yes.
Gary's putting in the pegs. How you going, Gary?
I'm charging along with it, Tim. Grabbing life by the balls before the rain comes in.
Yeah.
Hammering some pegs into this good solid ground. We found a bit more shelter up here. And,
Yep. And Gary's been joined by his lovely wife, Tony. Hello, Tony. Yeah, Tony's along for the ride for next week or so. And yeah, and Tilly. Where's Tilly? There's Tilly. Hey, Tilly. And I've just propped and, for about the 5th time, and now I'm going to repair my brake handle, which got sucked into the prop and got chewed up and spat out, and I was very lucky. Gary, how lucky was I?
Hey, every day you're very lucky. We're all lucky to be alive, but you're especially lucky.
3 days in a row I've had bad outcomes for my launches. Oh, not always for my launch, but yeah. And been lucky each time. I'll get to work on the prop handle. I've got a spare wing, the Hadron I've been using. This is off the Universal, and so I'll stick with the Hadron. It's a bit twitchy in the launch on the wheelbase, which I'm having trouble with, but we're getting better each time. So.
After a couple of days sitting it out in Kimbo, I was keen to get back up in the air. Unfortunately, the weather was still against us and still a northerly wind blowing, but I thought, hey, I know what, why don't we just go with the wind for a change? And I got a little bit off track, but we headed down towards Wyalla, took off early in the morning before the wind got too strong, and got up nice and high, and I was cruising along and realised that I was overtaking the trucks on the road below me, and I looked at the speed and I was doing close to 140 kilometres per hour, which was the fastest I've ever been and the fastest for the trip, close to world record speeds. And before I knew it was time to land, I was running out of land. I could see the ocean coming up ahead, and still quite a way away, but I needed to find somewhere to land, and I found a wheat field. It wasn't our designated landing area, but I overshot the mark, and I needed to get it down on the ground and come in for a bumpy landing, but a soft landing in the wheat. After landing, the local farmer came along with his son, Nigel and Matt Schiller, and to check to make sure I was all right. They'd seen me flying overhead and come by to. Well, the northerly wind really got up that day. It was howling all day long. So we took the opportunity to go into Wyalla and have a look around and some of the touristy stuff. And then we headed to Lincoln Pass, which is just south of Wyalla, and camped on the side of the road there for the night. Got up bright and early and did a launch there. You might see in the footage that my camera gets caught in the lines, which happened a few times. And after that, I just ruled out no more wearing the camera on the helmet when I was doing reverse launches.
So I thought maybe there's a path, maybe there's a gap in the clouds further to the south.
Yep.
So I tracked down to the south at about 40 kilometres an hour. I went, I don't know, 10 or 15 k's, and there was no
holes.
So then I was going to come and land. So I thought I'd come back to the
Beginning of the pass.
beginning of the pass.
Yeah.
And I got there and I thought, that's a better.
It looks better now.
I can nearly see some light through there.
Yeah.
So I started going up, and then I noticed the road goes that way. Well, the road goes that way, and but the light, I could nearly see the sun this way.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'll just keep going, and I can always turn around. But once you're committed, you can't turn around.
Yeah.
But then I just lost sight, and I was just in a haze, just white out. So I just kept gunning it. I was like 900 meters. And it was pretty bumpy and starting to get. But I could see on this saved me because I could see that I was past all the big hills. But I'd gone a long way to the north, following, because I just wanted to follow that the sun and that's the way the wind was blowing.
Yep.
So the best speed and straight up over the top, and then I was flying for a bit, and then suddenly I could see paddocks, and I thought, oh, fuck, coming down.
Well, after running out of fuel just short of Ora route, we put the Paramotor on the tractor, drove into town for some cup of tea and a cup of coffee, and sat around at the football oval for the afternoon, waiting for the storms and rain to pass. Finally, there was a break in the weather, and I could see an opportunity to get on to the next little town, which is Gunter. So I foot launched and headed to the north of the range, while the road crew went to the south of the range. I was lucky enough to avoid all the rain. It was very uncomfortable flying conditions, very gusty winds, and had a little bit of a tailwind, so I made good ground, but I was all the time I was worried that there was storm clouds approaching. It was an early morning start on day 21. Gary and I left Yunta, heading for Broken Hill, which was over 200 kilometres down the Barrier Highway, a long and lonesome old road. We got up to about 3,500 feet. It was quite chilly, but we had a nice tailwind and we were making good speed, and didn't see a lot of each other along the way, but we caught up just short of Broken Hill, and we both had to come into land because we'd almost run out of fuel. It was a great feeling to cross over the New South Wales border, our last border crossing, and it really felt as though we were on the home straight from there. And the desert scenery was just amazing. Best scene from the air. We had a bird's eye view and really enjoyed the flight. Gary and I both had interesting landings at Broken Hill. I smashed my phone and Gary did a standing stop land I've never seen before. Anyway, we packed up and drove into town, and then the afternoon was blowing out, so we took a drive out to Silverton, the home of a lot of movies, where a lot of movies are being filmed. My favourite, Mad Max. It's a great spot to visit, Silverton. With rain forecast for Saturday night in downtown Broken Hill, we thought it'd be best to get some accommodation, so we booked into the caravan park and lapped up a nice hot shower and comfy bed for the night. But next morning we were up early and off out to find somewhere to take off from, and we found a nice launch site out by the showgrounds, and up we went. It was a nice launch into a westerly wind. I had a nice tailwind as I did the day before, and the flight was very similar to the previous day's flight. Similar times, 2 hours and 20, and very similar distance, 184 kilometres, to finally get to Wilcannia, the 3/4 way mark on the trip, and it was a really good feeling to come down in Wilcannia, and I was quite happy and great to be back on the ground. It was my first visit to Wilcannia, and over the years I've heard a lot about it, and none of it's been good. It's often referred to as the worst town in Australia, but I thought it was a lovely town, and enjoyed the afternoon having a poke around down by the river and doing some exploring. So great to visit Wilcannia. Be sure to join us for week 4, our biggest week of all, where we travel from Wilcannia all the way across New South Wales and over the Great Dividing Range to finally wind up in the lovely Byron Bay.